Yeah.
Another question we have. Assalamu alaikum. Let's say if there's a conflict between Hadith and Imam Abu Hanifa, how do we reconcile? Is there any book available by Imam Abu Hanifa?
Well, we just talked about this for the last 10 minutes. What happens when a hadith, what you should word it correctly, it seems to conflict with the ruling of a madhab. That the whole madhab literature, especially of later days, is meant to reconcile all these things. Okay, how's this question? Abu Hanifa didn't have access to Bukhari and Muslim. That's why he didn't know many things. Well, the answer to that is that your assumption about Bukhari and Muslim is incorrect. Your assumption that Bukhari and Muslim is like the be-all and end-all of hadith, okay, and that Islam is just taken from those two sources, that is incorrect. Bukhari and Muslim, you have to understand something. They had legal opinions, mostly from Shafi'i environments, okay? They then went to the hadith to find the supports of those legal opinions, okay? So Bukhari and Muslim are not neutral collectors of hadith. You have to understand this. They didn't say, okay, I'm going to be completely neutral. Let me just go look for hadith. No, they had their opinions already. Then they went and they found the most sound hadiths. Okay. Number two, they did not intend to gather an encyclopedia of hadith. So they just gathered hadith that would suffice you, right, to live your life. Number three, hadith existed and was being transmitted all throughout the ummah before Bukhari and Muslim and without them. Do you think that we wouldn't have an Islamic heritage of hadith even if Bukhari and Muslim didn't live, with all our great respect for them? SubhanAllah. No, hadith always existed. And they were not the first book, like the Islamic ummah had no hadith and all of a sudden, boom, 300 years later, Bukhari and Muslim come up. That's not how it works. Hadith was all over the place, documented in notebooks, in private books, scrolls, private books, okay, and other publications before them. Many, many, many musnads, dozens upon dozens of books of hadith before Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, so this is one of those types of I want to say myths, but close to that.
Sheikh,
yeah.
There's a big misconception with regards to the grading of hadith as well. So like, okay, this hadith is da'if today, and Imam Abu Hanifa clearly is following this hadith, and then this hadith is sahih, right? Mm-hmm. This is a big misconception because, as you mentioned a lot, when it comes to riwayat, as time passes, right, it gets harder for us to really discern whether or not it's authentic. Mm-hmm. So it might be that it was sahih at Imam Abu Hanifa's time, but then it got weak eventually because the chain got weaker.
There is no one final say on chains. For example, there can be difference of opinion on chains. There can be. To give an example, the famous hadith in which the prophets forbade animals with canines and birds with claws, birds with talons. The prophet forbade eating animals with canines and birds with talons. This is a great example for two reasons. Number one, Malik himself deemed the first half to be from the prophet, the second half to be an analogy from the narrator. Then some other students assumed the whole thing was from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here you have a sound hadith. Malik only deems the first half of it sound, the second half to be idraj. Idraj means the narrator makes a comment and accidentally a student deems that to be part of the hadith. Okay? And that's number one. Number two, when the Prophet forbade it, did he mean haram or makruh? Malik said he means makruh, right? Because food is only forbidden in the Quran according to Imam Malik. So that's two examples there. One, the nature of the prohibition, and number two, the nature of the hadith.